Hi guys, I'm Ashley Pollard, and this is Cocky, the podcast where women learn to take up space like we were born for it. If this is a man's world, then it's our job as women to change the rules. This is your permission slip to stop playing small, stop apologizing for your ambition, and start running your business and your life like the boss that you are. Join me every Thursday covering the week's biggest headlines in business, branding, and marketing. I may even invite a member of my team at Dial Zero Marketing Agency along for some episodes as well. And as always, follow along with us on the Cocky Substack. If you're ready to be bold, unapologetic, and maybe even a little cocky, stay tuned. Hi guys, welcome back to the Cocky Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Pollard. So excited to be here. So excited for another episode. Want to kick off really quickly. Thank you so much to everybody who is sharing this. I see the shares on Instagram. It means so much that you are telling your audience about us. People are reaching out. Oh my gosh, my husband loves this. I sent this to my friends and I didn't think they'd like it and they love it. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for having our back. Thank you for sharing the show. We're really excited about the growth. While I have you, please make sure to leave a review. We've got some really exciting eyes on us, and it'll mean the world if we are able to show that you guys really like this, which is fun. Some fun updates too. We are posting to YouTube. The link is in our show notes if you want to go watch instead. You can watch also on Spotify. So if you're listening on Spotify, hi guys, how you doing? And then final piece of housekeeping is that we do give a lot more headlines in our Substack. We kind of dive into a few pieces that we think are interesting. We always also have sections of it where maybe we talk about what to stream this week, or we talk about books that we're loving or brands that you need to be supporting. And so I'm really excited for the Black founded brands that we're highlighting this month in favor of Black History Month. Last week, for instance, in the Substack, it was different ways to say no kindly. We have shared different ways to be cocky and take up space that week. So excited to show you what we have for this week as well. We do also have a paid portion for $5 a month where you unlock 10 to 12 additional articles that will help you understand brand and marketing a bit better. And that's under our paid newsletter. So would love to see you there as well. Let's dive in, shall we? The first thing I have to kick off with is our correction section. This is where I dive in and say, oops, I said the wrong thing. And I did say the wrong thing in one of our past episodes where I was talking about Sarah Foster and Aaron Foster being acquired by the Dear Media Network and moving their podcast to that network. I had said that their podcast was called The First Podcast Ever. The name of the podcast is called The World's First Podcast. And that's all we have for the correction section at this point. So I'll take it as a win. You know, a win is a win, and I'm going to take it. Thank you guys so much for that. Now, like I said, we do have a ton more headlines in the Substack if you wanted to go take a peek and read through all of the different links that we have there. We do link to the source material. So if somebody's asking you for, where did you hear that? Not only can you share our podcast, you can also share the actual source material article if you're looking for it. I think the first and most exciting one is that Apple announced that they have a new product coming. Now, I record this a few days before the podcast comes out, and when the podcast is live, this product will have been announced. As you are reading it right now, you can Google new product announcement Apple and see what it is. We really don't have any idea. All they really shared was an Apple logo on some sort of a silver background, and we're not quite sure what it is. We don't know if it's an expansion of the AirTag family. We don't know if it's something with home security to kind of rival Nest. We don't know if it's actually going to be kind of boring and be another iPhone or another type of phone or a different type of iPad. I'm interested to see what it is, and I'm hoping it's innovative in some capacity because Apple just is not leading innovation anymore. Samsung is really taking the cake. And as someone who is an Apple user, I have a Mac and I hate it, by the way. I just switched to Mac. I'm furious about it. I don't think I'll be staying with it. I'm not a Mac girly. I'm a PC girly. I do have an Apple iPhone, which I adore. I do love a lot of the features of the iPhone. I have an Apple Watch. I have an iPad. Like, I'm part of the Apple family. I've bought in. Now, I think what makes me upset, though, is that I did try to buy into this family. And the problem is that there's so many other brands that are simply more innovative, and they get all these great features, all these really exciting opportunities and products to play with. And I am an early adopter. I like to play. I like the new gadget and gizmo aplenty. I like this type of stuff. And so for me, it's like, I want the cool flip phone that the screen bends. Like, I would like one of those. I think that that's a fun, innovative idea. I like some of these new brands that are coming to market and offering new ways to play with tech. And so I would like for the leaders of creative tech to kind of stay at the forefront of innovative tech. And Steve Jobs, this was his thing. We're not going to do a ton of launches. We're not going to launch a lot of new products, but when we do, they will push the industry forward. And for the past 10 years, they have been dragging behind the competition. So I'm excited to see what this new product really is. I am preparing to be let down. I do think it's going to be an extension of the iPhone line. I think that we might see a flip phone. I think that maybe it could be something that rivals Nest in some way for home security. But generally speaking, I think I'm going to be bored. I've been bored by Apple for years, but maybe I'm just a hater. I hope it's innovative. I hope that for them. I hope that for consumers. Let's see what it is. Next line of business is that Favorite Daughter signs a licensing deal with Caleres to launch footwear. Now, that's a mouthful. It's also funny because this goes back to our correction section where I said that the world's first podcast, led by Aaron and Sarah Foster, came to a different podcast network. Now, these sisters, Aaron and Sarah Foster, if you've listened to past episodes, you remember me talking about them. They have this incredible podcast. They also have a clothing line called Favorite Daughter. I do believe it was kind of started by one versus the other, but they are famous daughters of a celebrity. And so it's just kind of funny that they have this brand called Favorite Daughter. However, the product is exceptional. It is well made. Great reviews, great feedback from the consumer. Price point is high for Favorite Daughter. I do think it warrants that based on the construction and the materials used. I come from 12 years in the fashion industry at Prada, Gucci, Rebecca Minkoff, Sam Edelman, Hunter Boots. Like, I know quality product. It does look like construction and material wise, it warrants the price point that it's at. It's not attainable for everyone, but it's well made. And they do denim, they do sweaters, hats. They've done pretty kind of like Americana basics, I would call it. And they recently signed a deal with Caleres to launch a footwear line. Now, what does that mean to you? Why do you care? And you might not, right? Do you really care about Favorite Daughter footwear? I don't know. But I do want you to understand the business of all of this because I think it's very interesting. And I don't know if a lot of consumers know much about licensing. If you do, great. You learn a little bit more from me talking about it now. But I have worked at Caleres. So when I worked at Sam Edelman is a brand in the Caleres umbrella. Caleres used to be called Brown Shoe Company for many, many years. And while I was at Sam Edelman, it rebranded into the name Caleres because they used to be all footwear brands. Think Dr. Scholl's, Naturalizer. And with this massive shoe enterprise or empire, they're able to do a lot with footwear, mainly because you own the entire vertical. Now, what that means, if you are unfamiliar with this terminology of owning the vertical, that means that you own every stage of the process. Now, let me give you an analogy for this licensing agreement and kind of how this works with Caleres, but other businesses as well. They're one of hundreds, thousands. It's a very widespread industry. Let's say I was craving a Caesar salad. Now, I have a couple options. One option could be that I go to the grocery store and I buy the products to make a Caesar salad, and it's relatively affordable and I can enjoy my Caesar salad. Now, the other thing that I could do is grow all of those materials. I could have a cow that produces the milk, so I make the cheese. I have the lettuce being grown. I have anchovies, I don't know, in a pond that I'm using for the Caesar salad dressing. I can grow all of these materials. Now, the time and energy of that is exhaustive, but the price would go down astronomically if I'm making a lot of Caesar salads. Now, this isn't a little bit of a bonkers analogy, but go with me, right? Now, it isn't necessarily inexpensive for me to go to the grocery store and buy those items, but it is substantially cheaper to do things in your own world. And that would be owning the vertical. So for instance, Caleres has Sam Edelman, which does high heels, Dr. Scholl's, which does a mix of things, Naturalizer, which does a mix of things. They also have plenty other brands. When I was there, they had DVF shoes. They had many, 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 many brands, right? Maybe 20. Now, what's interesting is that when you own the vertical, let's say you are just Favorite Daughter footwear. They would have to buy the leathers, buy the thread for sewing, buy the machines to make the shoes. They would have to buy or use people to put together the different pieces and to buy all of it. It becomes expensive. It's laborious. It is inefficient. Whereas working with someone like Caleres, they have all these things. So they're already buying black leather for their black leather shoes. What does it matter to them to add on another 10,000 units that they need to buy leather for? It drives the cost down for all of the brands since all of them can buy in to the same black leather that's being used. You might also see this with things like packaging choices. If they're using cardboard for their packaging options, they can buy cardboard for the group and it drives price down. It makes things very affordable. This is why people do licensing deals. What's interesting is we've also seen this before with Frame Denim. Frame Denim worked with Good American and now with Skims. And now all of them can own a vertical together and go in and share resources to keep prices affordable and maximize margins. It's not unethical. It is what it is. It's a great move for brands that want to expand. There's no reason for Favorite Daughter to own the footwear space. They can just give that to Caleres, and depending on the deal, either Favorite Daughter makes a royalty, which is a very small amount, or Caleres might make a royalty, and there's different ways you can construct that deal, but they clearly found something that works for the both of them. They sign this licensing deal. Caleres gets to add Favorite Daughter to their portfolio. It's a win for both of them. Favorite Daughter now gets to come out with footwear, and Caleres gets to add a trending brand to their umbrella of brands that they support. It's really good for anyone among both businesses. So a really exciting deal. I'm excited to see what they come out with. It's times like these, though, that are really interesting because if you do look at Favorite Daughter, look at me whispering, if you look at Favorite Daughter when they launch footwear and you see shoes that you love, a little hack is that you can go to the Caleres website, find one of their more inexpensive brands, and there may be something similar because they know that they're not going to cross-pollinate audiences. The person who wants to spend $265 for her jeans and brag about where she got her shoes may not be buying her flats from Dr. Scholl's or Naturalizer, but the Dr. Scholl's and Naturalizer girl may not have the money for the Favorite Daughter brand. So you may see some cross-pollination of design among Caleres brands. It happens with every licensing group, but it is a little hack if you want to save money. I don't know when the product would be launching. The news was that they signed the licensing deal, which typically that announcement happens at signing. It's a good thing for Caleres to get that news out there, and it's good for Favorite Daughter to get that news out there. So my guess is that we may not see footwear from them until late spring, maybe early summer next year. There's a world they could get it done by fall, but I think that would honestly, no, I don't think it would happen by fall. So next year, we'll probably see footwear. Next on my list of hot topics to discuss is that White Lotus has returned to our screens. I'm a major White Lotus fan, okay? I'm also a big TV fan. I like to watch TV shows when they come out. I like to watch them timely. There's something fun about watching it at the same time as other people, especially if there's an element of surprise or a cliffhanger. It's exciting to kind of be like in that moment. And White Lotus is one of those ones that I like to watch it in the moment. I've been watching it since the first episode debuted of season 1, episode 1, and it is one of the best TV shows of our time. It is so geniusly written, but it's also incredibly beautiful. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that I find the business of the White Lotus enterprise to be fascinating because White Lotus is actually working in partnership with the Four Seasons. I believe they have a 4-year agreement, which maybe signals to me that White Lotus may only be 4 seasons. Oh, that's kind of funny. They might only have it for 4 seasons and they're partnering with the 4 seasons. Anyway, I will have to check on that. That may be in the correction section. I'm going to make a note of that. So the White Lotus and the Four Seasons Resort has an agreement, and it's very beneficial for both of them. If you don't know, White Lotus is a show that talks about the elite who vacation. And something bad always happens on the vacation. It's typically a murder, okay? And that's not giving anything away. I think any teaser trailer would tell you that. So something typically goes wrong, and there's always some sort of subculture conversation. Maybe it's talking about environmentalism. Maybe it's talking about familial matters. I don't know. There's always some like really underlying conversations that I think are fascinating and exciting to talk about. There are definitely conversation starter episodes for sure. So the White Lotus has 3 separate seasons. They don't overlap really. There's some overlap sometimes, but not really. Season 1 was is in Hawaii, season 2 is in Sicily, season 3 is in Koh Samui, which is in Thailand. What's interesting is that every time they've done one of these seasons, tourism skyrockets. Tourism for Thailand ahead of The White Lotus coming out. Literally, just this week was the first episode. Tourism has already skyrocketed 300%, at least in searches. So that means that people are already anticipating heading to Thailand ahead of falling in love with the place through this TV show. What's also interesting is that they shoot on location at Four Seasons resorts, which is exceptional for the property. I mean, these properties are stunning. You look them up, there are thousands a night. So you get to kind of see what it looks like to be on location at these stunning resorts. I mean, they're gorgeous. But this type of flywheel of brand into entertainment is not new and it's not over. For instance, we have seen the brand The Home Edit, which is about decluttering and organization and, staying tidy. They launched their own TV show about decluttering people's homes. They go into celebrity homes, they come into everyday homes, and they give tips and tricks to stay organized, to be able to find your things easier, to be able to just live a more manageable life. And these tips are really helpful. But The Home Edit has their own line of product. So there is kind of this double whammy where you get the entertainment and you get the product. Now, some people try to replicate this where they may have like affiliate links or recommended products where it's like stay till the end of the episode and you can shop everything that was worn. Sometimes that's kind of connected, but it's a little bit of an afterthought. I do think we will see more of this high level brand because you obviously need the money to do it. But I do think we're going to see more of this brand into entertainment. For instance, there was talk of a celebrity brand who launched sweaters that were very retro 70s. There was a pitch that I don't think was accepted with Netflix of this kind of like 70s teenage summer kind of, Americana show. And the sweaters would be worn by most of the characters to promote the product. And I don't think that this is going to stop. I think that there's something really validating in using entertainment in order to showcase your brand and showcase your product, to position yourself properly, to make sure that your brand is being utilized in a certain way. And this deal with the Four Seasons could be as simple as we get to shoot on location for free, and we will do a lot of press around the fact that we shot at this beautiful, stunning resort, which we know will drive up tourism. I don't know what the deal looks like. I don't know if Four Seasons paid anything into the production. I don't know if they get any sort of kickbacks from White Lotus pending, different KPIs being hit. I'd be curious. I just love this stuff though. I want to get into all of the contracts. I want to read everyone's deals, okay? I'm nosy. I like to see these things. How was the deal constructed? And so I think this would be fascinating to see. I think that it is fun to know that the White Lotuses are shot at Four Seasons. And I will get back to you about how long that deal is, because I do wonder if that impedes the growth of White Lotus, knowing that they do have this deal with the Four Seasons. But who knows? Maybe it's more than 4 years and I'm wrong. Next up here, we have Glossier, who is a brand that I love. If you don't know Glossier, they are, honestly, a record-breaking company. They will go down in history as one of the most incredible businesses to follow. You don't have to be a fan, and the trajectory is insane. Why I say this is because Glossier was founded by Emily Weiss. Now, there are plenty of beauty brands founded by women. That's not the shocking part. Now, kudos, get it, girl. However, that's not the crazy thing to me. Emily Weiss started a blog when the blogs were at their height. Let's say she started it maybe 2012, 2013, 2014. She was one of those early bloggers, and she capitalized on it. Her blog became one of the most read blogs on the internet. It was called Into the Gloss. And she used that revenue to start a beauty brand called Glossier. She noticed that there were a lack of affordable makeup for her demographic. And the affordable makeup that was out there was just really badly branded. What does it look like to make affordable makeup that looks cute and that has great formulations? And that's how Glossier started many, many, many years ago, okay? Now, Glossier is a mainstay in a lot of young women's makeup and skincare routines. They've expanded into skincare. They have a massive makeup suite. I use some of their products. I'm always impressed by Glossier products. The stores are really fun to visit. They are innovative and completely different than anything I've experienced. It's a strong brand. It's a very strong brand. And there's been a lot of conversation about what is Glossier going to do to exit because Emily Weiss is still at the helm of it. I think maybe she brought in a co-CEO. That's another thing for me to check. But there's been this conversation around like, what is the liquidity event with Glossier? Now, if you don't know what a liquidity event is, it's basically like, what's the finish line? What's the big goal? Is it an acquisition? Is it an IPO? It would make sense that Glossier would IPO because it is such a big global brand, but it could be acquired. Somebody like a L'Oreal could buy it or some other brand could purchase it, like Sephora or whatever it is. Would formulations change 100% and then we'd all be sad? But that kind of brings me into the point. The point is that Glossier recently launched 2 new scents. This was already controversial in my opinion. The public didn't really agree, so I kind of let it go. But what was interesting about launching the 2 new scents is that they have this Glossier fragrance that I believe is called You, and this fragrance is bought by every cool girl on the planet, okay? Anyone who cares what they smell like buys this Glossier fragrance. It's affordable, it smells fresh, clean, it's not too overpowering. It's a great, great fragrance. A lot of girls on TikTok are saying this is the fragrance everyone stops me and asks me about. And what happened is that they changed the formulation of the fragrance and it's a little bit different now. And people were up in arms. Now, whether or not they fixed that, that's not the point. The point is that not soon after all this controversy about the formulation changing, they launched 2 new scents. And maybe that was to kind of drown out the noise. Maybe it was to say we were shifting into this new fragrance era, so we couldn't just do the one, we had to do many. Again, kind of going back to that licensing space. I'm sure that they're working with a partner there instead of just having the one fragrance that they own. Maybe a new fragrance partner can help them really maximize the collection. So they launched these 2 new scents a few months ago, like maybe last summer, which I guess, okay, maybe isn't a few, but like very recently they launched these 2 new scents. My point is they just announced they're launching their 4th fragrance. And I think it's confusing for consumers. Are you a fragrance house? Like, are you really trying to diversify deeply? Are you trying to diversify too quickly? What about some of these other concerns that we've had that aren't really being answered? So I do wonder if the big conversation around Glossier is this liquidity event. What is the future of the brand going to look like? How do the investors see an ROI and when does that happen? And people are kind of pressuring them for that. Why are we launching more fragrance? Typically, when you're aiming for a liquidity event, you are trying to minimize risk. That means less launches. That might be cutting products out of your collection, and you're there launching products that typically have a little bit of controversy around them. I think it's strange. I don't know what the reasoning is. It's also not a stupid brand. So they're definitely making this decision mindfully. There is also an opportunity that they're trying to make themselves approachable by a specific buyer who needs to see if they can expand into another category. So whatever they're doing, I'm going to be very interested to watch. But part of me thinks that whenever there is some sort of liquidity event, we're going to hear about how fragrance was important to it because this far into the conversation to be like maximizing fragrance in such a capacity at such a quick rate is fascinating to me and feels like a mistake, which means that it has to be super mindful and then it has to be doing something for them that we just don't know about. Speaking of cult followings, oh my gosh, you guys, is anybody else losing their mind that Euphoria is coming back to our television screens? If you haven't heard the big exciting news, Euphoria season 3 is soon to be in production. Everyone is confirmed. Cast is confirmed. Crew is confirmed. And it is such good news, guys, because if you're a Euphoria fan, our OG cast stays. I'm talking Alexa Demi, obviously Zendaya, Jacob Elordi, like the original cast is there, which is incredible. So excited about it. Maud Apatow, just maintaining that. And why that was a concern to a lot of us viewers is that this has been years since Euphoria season 2 came out. I think it's been 4 by the time we get the show. And the problem is that they're high schoolers. So, year 1 and 2 being so many years apart was kind of challenging because they're supposed to be in high school. What are we supposed to do 4 years later? Still act like they're in high school? These people look like grown ass adults. Like Zendaya's engaged, okay, guys? Jacob Elordi is a man. He does not have a boyish face anymore. Maybe a little bit, but like he's a man. I'm curious what they're going to do about the evolution of these characters. Are they in college? Are they growing up out of their character? What are they going to do with Sydney Sweeney, who is this like sexy high school girl? Like she's still obviously like voluptuous and stunning, but she is trying to make her roles a little bit more sophisticated. So I'm curious what this is going to look like. I know because they've said it that the reason this has taken so long to make are these negotiations, Zendaya's in high demand and she's the lead of this show. What are they supposed to do about that? Jacob Elordi is starring in Wuthering Heights with Margot Robbie. Like, he's a big deal now. Sydney Sweeney is a huge deal now. These actresses and actors, some of whom were known from Euphoria, some of whom were obviously known prior, are big. So not only how do you afford this talent, but how do you advance this storyline? Along with the fact that there's a lot of allegations around the director who's also writing the screenplay, who's also doing all this stuff, because he is hypersexualizing these characters who are supposed to be high schoolers. They're doing a lot of drugs, they're having a lot of sex. Like, it's an explicit show. It's a hard watch at times. It's fascinating, and I think it's culturally important, and I think it's culturally relevant. It's not my high school experience, I'll tell you that much, but I do think that there also may have been a little bit of putting the leash on the director to make sure that the screenplay was something that wasn't going to upset viewers even further, because some of the material is hard to watch. The other thing that's really interesting that I have to check on for you is what cameras they're using for season 3. Now, this is why the cameras are so important. You might be like, Ashley, why are we talking about the cameras being used on a TV show? Are you a TV show camera aficionado? And my answer would be absolutely not. I have no business talking about cameras in TV. However, the Euphoria fans know why this is important. The reason that this is so cool is because Euphoria has a very interesting style. It is shot very interestingly. It is beautiful. The lighting is stunning. It's very emotional with how it's filmed. What's interesting about the camera work in Euphoria is that Sam Levinson, the director, who, made a lot of decisions about the show. He's writes the screenplay. He's got a whole team, right? This work of how it was filmed and how it was edited that I've talked about is interesting because in most work in today's day and age, they're filming on videos that they can use digitally, right? So you can delete things and export, etc. Euphoria was filmed on film, which means the take is the take. And if we do another take, that's film we have to use. And that is gone. They found these vintage cameras. They had to source the actual film to film on. And it was a massively expensive part of making Euphoria. But what's interesting is that the film aspect of this is kind of palpable. It feels like you're watching home video almost. Like, it feels more personal. It feels more vulnerable. It feels more connective. And so I do also wonder how they're going to film season 3. Maybe that's part of like what they maybe had to change to keep it affordable and afford all of this talent. I wonder how that would affect the vibe on set. If you know that you only have so much of this film, then you, the actor, have to really make sure that you deliver. You don't get to do take after take after take after take. You have to show up to work. So I'm really interested to see what cameras they use, how that affects everything. I'm curious if we're going to get any leaks around why this took so long. We are seeing some new cast members join, which is very exciting. People like Marshawn Lynch, Rosalia, Anna Van Patten, just great talent is joining. Other people that are staying: Hunter Schafer, Eric Dane, Martha Kelly, Chloe Cherry, Coleman Domingo. So the cast is respectable. We're happy about the cast. I'm interested to see how they're shooting it. It won't affect my experience with it. I would anticipate that it might be out next summer, next fall, but I'm excited for it to come back to screens. I think I definitely have to rewatch it because it's been a minute. It's just tough because it's a hard watch. So I don't know if I'm really going to get that deep into rewatching it, but we shall see. The last piece that I really wanted to speak to is that ESPN is not renewing their Formula One deal. And another one I'm fascinated by and would love to have been in on those negotiations to listen and to watch, because I don't really understand why. I mean, Formula One is having a massive uptick. And if you're not familiar with Formula One, it's racing. It's kind of known as like the luxury racing. It's like the rich people's racing. You see a lot of rich people attending those events. Not to say that rich people don't go to other racing events, but it's kind of known as such. In fact, like Louis Vuitton, I believe, just became title sponsor of Formula One. You'll see Formula One races Monaco, Monte Carlo, done kind of around the time as Cannes. So you have like that crowd attending as well. But brands are also very much investing in Formula One. Charlotte Tilbury sponsored a car, which was the first female brand and makeup brand to sponsor a racing company ever. You see all these other brands getting super invested into the Formula One space. I mean, it's taking off. It's off to the races, okay, with Formula One. It's interesting to me that ESPN would not renew the media deal, which means that they have to find a new home to host and televise their races. I don't know why that wouldn't happen. Now, maybe that's a Formula One thing with Louis Vuitton. Maybe it's an ESPN thing. I don't know how it's bad positioning for anybody. Formula One wants new eyes on it. So the mass consumption that ESPN could provide would be genius. And ESPN can benefit from Formula One because they offer all of the sports on one network. Maybe it's getting too crowded. Maybe they're trying to focus more on soccer. I don't know, but I'm very interested to see why this is happening. I have to do more due diligence and I can report back. Now, guys, thanks for tuning into another episode of the Cocky Podcast. Go check out our Substack where you can also see our female-led brand of the week that we recommend. We also have different tips on how to live better and, bigger and what to stream and what to read and et cetera, et cetera. So you'll have to see what we have this week. Every week we do paid articles as well as deep dives into more consumer news, some marketing tips, brand tips. This week, we're doing deep dives into brands that we think you have to know, just really incredible backstories of brands that we think are reputable, interesting, ones that I think that you would really enjoy reading more about. And these deep dives for this week will be about Bala, the fitness bangles, Set Active, the activewear brand, Summer Fridays, the skincare brand. So subscribe to the Substack if you want to hear more about those. Please make sure to leave a review, share with your friends, share on social. Thank you guys for the support, and we'll catch you next time on the Cocky Podcast. Now, before we go, I have one simple favor, and that is to rate, review, and subscribe this podcast if you loved today's episode. It really helps us get the word out. Then head over to the Cocky Substack for even more insights, stories, and bold takes. You can follow along with Dial Zero Marketing on Instagram or with me personally at Ashley_P, ASHLI_P. Stay bold, stay unapologetic, stay cocky, and I will see you next Thursday.